The modern human life's in a cesspool of man made electromagnetic radiation. I was particularly messy and disorganized when I had radiation sickness. Radiation exposures are also known for their ability to turn some people into geniuses. The human has genetic adaptation to natural electromagnetic radiation. Increasing, reducing, or removing the natural radiation exposures results in a sickened mind that may progress in a diseased state. The scary thing about the protective properties of dietary intake regarding abnormal human radiation exposures is that NASA has understood this for decades. Something that is not effectively communicated to electronics, and wireless workers is that they are working with radiation and may develop radiation sickness. Radiation has properties of both God and Satan. Like God, is the correct exposures give health, excellent health. Like Satan, because too little or too much will make you sick and may lead to disease and premature death. If you want to radiation poison a nation, if you want to radiation poison a nation, just start shipping them cheap ionized and smoke detectors for the home with a little too much radiation in them. There's a lot of willful incompetence in the wireless radio frequency radiation industry that is in the process of coming to light. The electrical grounding system is the largest radio frequency radiation antenna system ever constructed in the history of mankind. We live in the irradiated, lazy, indoor cancer society. Arguably, insane utility workers that blatantly harass law abiding customers is likely to become more frequent as the long term effects of biologically toxic radio frequency radiation exposures from their transmitted smart meters continues to emerge. Utility electricity is a known hazardous biological toxin, and the toxicity of it is increasing as it progresses into harmonic electronic power generation, wind and solar and wireless radio frequency radiation smart AMI meters. To understand how growth, aging, and death works, you must understand the radiation environment. Summoned by Congress that November to testify about use of the bombs on Japan and their after effects to General Groves eventually conceded that radiation had been responsible for some of the deaths in the atomic cities, but informed the Senate Special Committee on Atomic Energy that doctors had assured him that radiation poisoning is a very pleasant way to die. Rhymes all night. Again, the satellite line. When listening to the lightning storms in your area on a standard AM radio, you will hear a sound like bacon frying, and this is the electromagnetic energy that the storm is generating. Plants react to this energy and may show vigorous growth during lightning seasons. It would appear that the blue sky is actually produced by the solar wind, and solar radiation exciting air molecules to emit light, just like a neon lamp. I have noticed that the solar radiation reflections from rippled privacy windows cause a greatly accelerated growth patterns in plants. And if the natural environment is changed and electromagnetic radiation levels increase, then it may cause illness and disease in humans. Unnaturally high radiation levels increases aggression in people. After 6 months of building muscle mass, I can now confirm that muscle mass creates increased tolerance to biologically harmful radiation sources. If you fill the atmosphere with toxins, then you really cannot be surprised if the solar radiation transmission through it becomes toxic to humans. The U.S. government states that the New Mexico Trinity nuclear bomb site is still highly radioactive and harmless. It is increasing interesting to note in the era of electromagnetic hypersensitivity (EHS) that it is a USA government policy that radio frequency RF and electricity are also harmless. There is no limit on the level that reflections can be at, and in a modern environment such as a city, the albedo can increase the power levels many times of the sky-based solar radiation of direct and diffuse. Combined with trees prevent the albedo reflections from occurring. Western governments use thermal heating standards for public protection from the damaging effects of wireless radio frequency RF radiation. Eastern governments use biological standards that are much lower due to the extensive long term radiation damage that has been seen to occur in humans at the Western Thermal Heating Standard. Columbus has the standard egg, Tesla has the electromagnetic egg, and Maggie has the egg, irradiated egg. I think irradiating pilots with Wi-Fi radio frequency RF radiation is really going to hit about 5 years from now as delayed radiation complications show up. I am expecting to see increased airplane accidents and crashes for various reasons starting in 2020 onward. Modify the environmental radiation, you will change the course of evolution. Mankind willfully changing the global electromagnetic radiation environment has created what I expect will become known as the man-made evolution era. The leading research in the adverse human health effects of electromagnetic radiation is not being done by well-funded governments or corporations. It is coming from a few self-funded, independent researchers. Rapper Spitter Forever. For 10 years after the atomic bomb was dropped, there was so little public discussion of the bomb or of radioactivity that even the Chugaku, Shimbun, the major newspaper of the city where the atomic bomb was dropped, did not have the movable type for atomic bomb or radioactivity. The silence continued so long because the U.S. Army Surgeons Investigation Team in the fall of 1945 had issued a mistaken statement. All people expected to die from the radiation effects of the atomic bomb have been then already died. Accordingly, no further cases of physiological effects due to residual radiation would be acknowledged. I'm underneath radiation poisoning forever. Mr. Rhymer forever and ever. Nether, Saint Nether, forever Rhymer stops rhyming and speaking. Nether, Saint Nether, forever Rhymer and speaker stops speaking. Never forever Rhymer and speaker stops rhyming and speaking. Nether. The world can spare psychopathic masterminds of fear, pushing the panic button all along. Instead, let us look at the unfettering light that has sliced me out in the dark cloud throughout our life journey and make us feel its radiation and the vibrations around a path of stillness. Oregon was bathing in a daytime aurora on Saturday, August 17th, 2024, that could be felt and not seen. Daytime fatigue and unusual pains were the notable human effects. Predicted USA aurora was a bust. Solar radiation definitely arrived as people had strange fatigue and pains in Oregon, USA on the predicted day. Unfortunately, auroras are so dim they cannot be seen during the daytime. Only 2 aurora predictions in Oregon were right so far in 2024. One lasted most of the night and was seen throughout the world, and the other lasted about 20 minutes. My estimate for the northern lights in Oregon being predicted correctly seems to be about 5% accuracy most of the time. The Oregon prediction is wrong. I knew I was disabled when everyday home activities became overwhelming. It is only a matter of time before another nuclear bomb is detonated during a war. Whipping a Warren city off the map will be a statement to the world, as it was in 1945. Auroras are so dim they cannot be seen during the daytime. My estimate for the northern lights in Oregon being predicted correctly seems to be about a 5% accuracy. Most of the time, the Oregon aurora prediction is wrong. Proxy wars have us on the edge of the next nuclear disaster. Once upon a time, on a small, watery, excitable planet called Earth, in a small, watery, excitable country called Italy, a soft-spoken, rather nice-looking gentleman by the name of Enrico Fermi was born into a family of so overprotective that he felt compelled to invent the atomic bomb. Just like backing out of the driveway. The driveway was 10 miles long, full of rocks and pits, with lethal radiation hovering above, waiting to smite you, rhyme you. Smiles like radiation are made more potent by proximity. I would not get internet from a wireless company. They give you a Wi-Fi hotspot that is a cell phone in disguise. It is like someone making a cell phone call 24 hours a day. Your home will be filled with cell phone radiation. It is like a mini cell phone tower within the home. The definition of a summit brain is a malfunctioning brain that is at high altitude or is hypoxic and or is radiation exposed and or has been exposed to Faraday cages and or has viruses and or has used medical oxygen and or has used over-the-counter drugs and or has been exposed to industrial pollutants and or has been exposed to a partial vacuum and or has a malnutrition and or has long-term damage from the various exposures. Rapper, a move over and forever speaker, talker, verbal disowner. A poor diet combined with high altitude exposures may bring increased risks of illnesses and cancers. Most people that have radiation sickness end up having a life that is much sicker than the general population. For most people with radiation sickness, it is a life of significantly degraded health, high altitude illness, and disease. Research is where radiation health research was during the time of Marie Curie after watching a cloudy ring of fire eclipse on 14th October 2023. I had a changed health that was consistent with low level radiation sickness. New Mexico is home to the first atomic bomb exploded on USA soil. Nevada is the home of USA atomic bomb testing. There are many stories of atomic bomb veterans never being compensated for developing radiation diseases. I look at the sun all the time. I have no eye issues other than those associated with aging. I wear glasses for reading at the age of 54. I would never look at the sun for glasses, binoculars, or telescopes, though, as that is really dangerous. Anything that causes magnification or increased solar radiation levels, such as reflection, is bad for your eyes. I started to see a serious decline in health in high altitude professional astronomy. Most noticeable was the onset of constant fatigue, memory issues, and confusion. The condition progressed during my time in the commercial and utility solar industry, where I started falling asleep at work and developed hot skin. The doctor tested me and said I had shift work disorder in 2008 and vitamin D and vitamin B12 deficiencies. In 2011 and 2015, he had a COVID-19 like sickness that made everyone in the family really sick. I never recovered, and this started regular visits to the doctors. They diagnosed severe sleep apnea and mental illness and prescribed a CPAP, a machine under the care of the doctors. I became much sicker on their prescription drugs and treatments. I eventually got smart and figured out I was not going to recover under their care. They may actually kill me in 2021, moving to Hawaii Island. Revealed that I had altitude hypersensitivity and a high altitude commuting disease called a Maggie's disease. By the end of 2024, I had developed the treatments for these conditions and made a reasonable recovery. There's no cure for either condition. They are lifelong illnesses I now have to live well below 1,000 feet near sea level and take the treatments for the rest of my life. I documented the conditions in the books Toxic Altitude and Maggie's disease. The treatments for the hypoxic, high altitude damage appear transferable in COVID-19 and long COVID, and these are documented in the books COVID Supplements and Long COVID Supplements by Forever Radiation Theory Infinitist Specialist, Lyricist.